All right, so let's talk about Hanukkah. So
Yes.
tell us the story of Hanukkah, the tradition behind it, and the celebration, and the meaning, the background to it.
Okay, so first of all, I brought a Chanukkah. Okay, a Chanukkah is different than what you may be familiar with a traditional picture of what the menorah was in the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So the menorah in the temple has 7. So there's 3, 3, and 1 in the middle.
Okay.
And the Chanukkah, which we'll talk about shortly, has 8. So we'll get into the reasoning behind it, but we'll start with just adding a bit more light. So we'll light the Chanukkah as we do every day of Chanukah.
Mm-hmm.
We light according to what day it is. So today is the 4th day of Hanukkah. So we light 4 candles, and then we have over here what's called a shamash, which is a helper, okay? And we use that to be able to light the other candles, and we'll put it right over there so that it stands there while we're talking.
Okay.
So the story of Hanukkah goes back about 2,200 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Hellenistic Empire, Hellenistic times with basically the Greek-Syrian rulers. So as you may be familiar with, Israel going back to King David, right? So we go into Israel as with Joshua,
Yes.
right? And then from that point and on, all of history, there have always been Jews in Israel.
Okay.
Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Our first interaction with Israel is with Abraham,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we come over there and we're Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then afterwards the 12 tribes go down to Egypt, and only with Joshua do we come back to Israel.
Okay.
King David institutes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel,
Yes.
and his son King Solomon builds the first temple.
Okay.
The first temple is destroyed, and we are exiled out to the Babylonian Assyrian Empire. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's around Iran, Iraq area today.
Mm-hmm.
About 70 years later exactly, we are given permission to go back to Israel by King Koresh, who lets us go back to Israel to build the second temple.
Okay.
We build the second temple, and there's a dynasty over there that we are still under rule of foreign leaders, but we have the second temple built.
Okay.
The Greeks come and they take over, as they did most of the world,
All right.
and they come, and Jerusalem was no different as part of their rule. However, Jerusalem has a very important place, as it was and is a very spiritual place.
Okay.
And this is something that the Greeks had a very hard time with.
Okay.
If you read Greek mythology, if you've read, if it interests you, you'll notice that all of Greek mythology is very much revolves around humans. Okay? In other words, the Greek gods have no interest in humans.
Okay.
And the Greek gods all are basically better humans, right?
Okay.
They look like people, they act like people, they fight like people. That is not something that we believe in. We believe in God as divine, has no body, okay? We don't refer to God as a person ever in Judaism. And when you look at the Greeks, for them, the person is in the center of the world. And therefore, the whole mythology revolves around people being godlike or gods being people-like.
Okay.
Now, when the Greeks come and they capture Jerusalem, what they cannot stand for is they cannot stand for people doing things for a deeper reason. So, for example, you get up and you pray, right? You're praying like you would eat, right? Or like you would sleep or go to the bathroom, or like how you get dressed. Is it a practical thing, or does it serve a deeper reasoning? Is there something deeper behind prayer, right? So the Greeks could not fathom something with a deeper meaning in their philosophy. And when you look at the Jewish belief, everything we do has a deeper behavioral reason for it. we get circumcised way before the world saw any medical benefit to it, right? So what did the Greeks say? You cannot get circumcised,
Okay.
right? You are destroying the body, and as humans are the most holy thing that there is, you can't harm the body.
Okay.
Then they said we eat kosher food, which has a lot of rules to it. They said food is food. Here, have some pig, right?
Okay.
We said we don't eat pig. They said on principle you must eat,
Okay.
right? And they were forcing. We keep the Sabbath as a day of rest. They say you want to rest? Rest on Tuesday, right? You're not allowed to have the Sabbath as a Sabbath, right? And there's a lot of these types of rules that they put in place, which means they're not trying to necessarily kill us. They're trying to make us no longer be religious. It's a religious battle.
And maybe you need to give context, because there are some students of history who may be following this conversation, and the theological students who perhaps I probably have an idea of this Hellenistic period.
Yeah.
We're talking about 200 BC coming all the way.
Yeah.
Well, the Greeks really were like on top of things around 300 BC, 300, 400 BC. That's when the empire thrived, and then of course came off what we probably study a lot in the academy, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle,
Right.
and all those guys. You know, we're talking about 300 BC, when the Greek philosophy and culture was at their peak, isn't it? But then now you're saying that had an implication on the Jewish community, the small Jewish community,
It's
and
not
the
so
nation.
small.
Actually, the nation. Let me call it a nation, a full-fledged nation in Israel those days. So, and the fact that obviously being under the dominion of the Greeks, they ruled everyone, they policed everyone. Then perhaps there was this now conflict. The Greeks could not understand why you guys, the Jews, were unique, and they insisted on unique way of culture, prayer, worship, and stuff like that. That's what you're trying to describe.
Yeah.
Then, so how did Hanukkah come about?
So during this rule of the Greeks, they were trying to force a lot of these ideals on everybody, but their emphasis in this story is on the Jews in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And what ends up happening is they come and they basically try to force the high priest to sin in public so that everybody else will follow. Okay? Different versions of the story, whether it was eat a pig or slaughter a pig, okay, in the temple, to basically make an example.
Okay.
And Matityahu, okay, who is the high priest and is the leader of what ends up becoming the rebellion of Hanukkah,
Okay.
in an act of war and rebellion, decapitates the ruler over there and brings his head out to the public and starts the war over there of the Maccabees against the Greeks.
Okay.
Okay.
So the famous Maccabean revolt.
Exactly. So this is
Okay.
the Maccabean revolt. The Maccabean revolt, the majority of it is about 7 years.
Okay.
Okay. Like that's the story. And there's all in all 8 battles.
Okay.
Okay. So we have 8 battles that last over these 7 years, and inside, in the middle of them, right in the middle, after the 4th battle, Yehuda, okay, Judah the Maccabee, gets up, and after they manage to conquer the temple back and clean it out. So when they get into the temple, they see that they put in statues and they violated our holiest place in the world, right? And Judah Maccabee decides to clear it out and light the menorah as basically a sign of bringing light into the world yet again, and then they continue the battle.
Okay.
When they go into the temple, they see that all of the vials of oil have been violated. Okay, so a vial of oil that was used in the temple, now we use candles, some of us use oil, so I usually light with oil, but in the temple everything was lit with oil.
Okay.
And when they come to light, you need oil that is considered kosher, pure oil, olive oil, that has the high priest's stamp on it, which means it's sealed and no one has opened it. because if someone that is not pure, which means someone who is not following the laws of purity, someone who touched something that is dead, something that, like, there's a lot of rules, and it's quite
the
complex.
Levitical rules. If you just describe them as the Levitical rules.
The Levitical rules.
Yeah. So the Bible readers understand what you're talking about.
To an extent. So later on, like in the oral scriptures, it's in a lot more details. It's one of the more complex things to learn and understand, especially today in a time where people are so removed from the more spiritual realm of things and understanding that. But basically, everything had to be done purely.
Okay.
And when they bring the oil, it is sealed by the high priest, and then you know that it is good for using for the menorah.
Okay.
And what happens is they go in, and all of the seals are open.
Okay.
Which means in the Greek mind, they don't need to put something else in. They don't need to destroy. They tell you want to light the menorah. Just don't use kosher oil,
okay.
right? Like, it's all the same, right? This is oil, this is oil. It tastes the same, it smells the same, it looks the same, it burns the same, right? But on a spiritual level, the difference is tremendous.
Okay.
And they find one little jug that is hidden away, that the Greeks did not manage to violate.
Okay.
And they open it up and they pour it, and they see there's enough oil for one day. So they fill it up and they light it, and they say, we'll have oil for, at least we'll do it today.
Okay.
And they come back in the morning and the candles are still lighting. And they come back the next day and the candles are still lighting. And it kept on burning for 8 days.
Okay.
That was the amount of time that it took them to go and bring and make new oil and bring it to the temple. That's how long the process takes. And that is the miracle of the light. And everything that we discuss around Chanukkah is the fact that there's two miracles. One is that a small army of rebels defeats a big evil, right? A small army of good defeats a big evil.
Okay.
And the second one is the miracle of the light, and the fact that a little bit of light makes a lot of darkness go away.
Okay.
Okay, so in Hanukkah we light every single day. We light the candles, one for each night. So on the first night we light one, second night two, third night three, and so on. So today is the fourth day of Hanukkah.
Oh yeah, the fourth day of Hanukkah,
Yes.
although you've lit 5.
No, so you
the
light
first
four, and this one over here is called a shamash. This one stands out.
Okay,
So it doesn't matter which one that you'll see. It will either stand out on the side, under, on top, something, basically to show that this one is the one that I use to light the candles, as these candles, their purpose is just to spread light.
Okay.
And any extra light that I add in is a bonus, but we don't consider that one as part of them. So you see there's a place for 8 candles and what's called a shamash, a helper candle.
Okay, very good. Excellent. I think this is an amazing, so that's really the background of Hanukkah.
That's the background.
And every Jew celebrates this. Does every Jew family have this in their home, or you're supposed to use it at the synagogue?
Every Jew has one at their home. Each person lights one for themselves.
Okay.
And you light it usually facing outwards so that people can see. You light it in the entrance of your house or by a window so that you can spread more and more light around the
Okay,
world.
so if somebody goes to Israel right now, although there is trouble, they should be able to see the...
In every single window.
Wow,
And,
wonderful. Wonderful. And again, this is winter, so I think it's even more interesting.
So it's also a big part of the reason of basically we light it in the darkest time of the year.
Okay.
So in Israel, this is midwinter.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the longest nights, the darkest time. We light to extinguish the darkness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is a lot of darkness that needs to be extinguished.
A lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you follow this conversation, I'm talking to Rabbi Netanyahu. He's a good man. He's a rabbi. He teaches, the Torah, the ancient Jewish scriptures and tradition. That's really your role. And so I believe you're following this conversation and you're learning something. Some of these things, we just pick them up along the way. And but today we have somebody who can explain to us what this whole tradition is about. So Rabbi Netanyahu, I think it's amazing, and maybe that also can bring us to the current conflict, which obviously is a big blow to your nation.
It's a big blow to the world.
Yeah, and nobody wants to be at war. I mean, wherever war starts, obviously, it's.
No one wants to be at war, but if you look at all of history, if you don't fight the war, you lose.
Okay.
Right? Like, every time that there's a war, there's evil, and you can either fight it or you can die.
Okay.
Right? Like, that's the reality, right? The alliance, they didn't want to go and fight against the Germans. No one wants to go and fight against a war. But either you let the Nazis win,
okay,
or you need to fight off this evil. So right now, no one wants to be in a war, but the world needs to fight this, and needs to fight this kind of evil. And it just happens to be in our region, so we are fighting it on behalf of the world.
Okay.